Go ahead, recording. All right. All right. If I remember correctly, we're in Perek Gimel and up to Hashvi. Is that correct? Well, Shishi. I think we did Shishi.
Yeah, I thought.
What's that?
Wait, let me just see. Because we'll have some Cheshbon Nefesh. No, we did have Cheshbon and Nefesh. So we're up to Shvi.
Up to Shvi. Okay, Shvi. So just on Shishia, the Cheshbon HaNefesh, I saw Rav Matisyo. Yeah, excuse me 1 minute, guys. 1 minute, please. 1 minute. Yes, I'm coming. Yes, Meryl. Yeah.
I don't know what you're saying.
I don't hate to say it, actually. And I'm sorry. So he says on the Shishi and the Cheshbon HaNefesh. He says that he seems to be addressing two things here. On one hand, he's addressing that Akash Baruch Hu did so much good for you, and you're paying it back with bid, right? And how he so and then he says, also, yes, it's also a cheshbon HaNefesh, but it's a different type. What punishment is awaiting him, either in this world or the next world, or both? And to weigh it out against the pleasure that he got from the Avera. And in the same way, when it comes to the mitzvah, the reward you'll get in this world and the next, mitzvah, for the mitzvah you'll do,
We have no concept of what that really means, though. Like we just have this fabled idea is that the Gehenim or cleansing of sin is like the worst pain of every pain, and Gan Eden is every pleasure of every pleasure, but we can't even fathom what that means. We're kind of just going on that as a concept rather than anything we can tangible.
Right. Because we haven't been there, it's true. It's true. But the Torah is full of indications and remazim. So based on that, the person has to make a cheshbon, right? So Ramatzio says that that the haLevavos here is referring to the two things that he says that we explained before of Shamnu and Bagad. Because the first thing is Bagad. You are Boged. Boged means you're what's it called? You go, a rebellious. So he says, certainly, when you rebel against the king told you to do something, and you rebel against them, it's very bad. But it's so much worse when it's not only that you're not listening to the king, but it's after the king did so much for you. Right? That's the first cheshbon. That's a parallel to Bagad and Oshamnu, which means that like you're desolate. That's the second part where it's not so much about the rebellious. It's just look what you've done to yourself. You put yourself for a little hana and the suffering.
I might be in a mood tonight, but and I know you don't have to like get into a mood, but like it's not, and you can't you can't compare it to a king of flesh and blood, because a king of flesh and blood would never demand those so intricate type of things. So it like Averas come from a certain level of necessity of seeking of joy, seeking of this, seeking of that, whatever. Then they kind of put it into that frame. It's like there's a guilt factor without any relevance to what people are experiencing, what leads them to sin. It's not a fair comparison.
No, 1 minute. In the concept of it, he's focusing that there's two. When we sin, there are like two sugis. Okay, there are two sugis, and you do find this all over the place. You find the idea that when you did an avera, so yeah, there's the fact that you did an avera, and then there's the fact, the thing itself, whatever that thing itself is, and besides that, if you didn't listen to the person who commanded to do it, right? So he's saying that the haLevavos says is bring mityaches in English, right? He's discussing both of those parts in this paragraph here, because the paragraph is talking first about the fact that you went against Hashem's will, though He gave you so much, and then He tells you there's the cheshbon nefesh of how you're going to suffer, right, or how you're going to get reward. So he's saying that those two sugis is called Oshamnu and Bogad. Now he's just saying when a king was a king and he makes rules and you don't listen to him, that's a begida, that's a rebellion, that's a rebellious act. And all he's saying is that rebellious act in its essence is limited to the idea the king said you to do something and you went against his will. He's just saying that it's so to speak like a kal v'chomer of a rebellious act when you factor in that this person who commanded you to do it has been your patron. He's been giving you everything you need, and then you don't listen. That's so much worse of a begida. And therefore, that's the haLevavos is saying that when you make this cheshbon, you factor in all the tovos Hashem did. That just makes the rebellious act much more serious. It's one thing if you okay, there's a king, there's the people in the country, the king makes rules, they didn't listen, they get punished, they rebel. Well, let's say this king's done so much for that person, then it's a much more rebellious act. That's all he's saying. Number two, he's saying the second part is connected to Hashamnu. The Hashamnu is less related to the rebellious aspect of the Avera, but more to the Avera itself. And what did you do to yourself? You made Hashamnu means you made yourself desolate. You made yourself, right? That's what he's saying. It seems to be that the haLevavos was saying in the second part of the paragraph that he says a second message, right? Of the cheshbon of schar against Einish, and what pleasure did you have when you did the Avera, and what are you gonna have to pay for that, and the mitzvah? That's the sugya of Hashem. That's all he's saying. That's all. I think he's categorizing it very nicely. And now we go to Vashvi.
If I can just interrupt, it was a bogey. I remember Netanyahu saying something because people were holding up signs. And when he was prime minister, he said, Hula bogey. So I think it's more of a traitor, at least in modern Hebrew.
Okay.
Maybe it could mean both, but I just remember Netanyahu using the.
But modern Hebrew isn't always exact, also. So.
Yeah, right.
The way he's describing it here is that Hashem commanded you to do something, and He gave you so much good, and you're going against His command. So that seems to be more on. Yeah, you're right. It's certainly modern Hebrew. Begida is a traitorous act or something. Okay, Shvi. Shvi is a very interesting thing, and I wonder if he means what I think he means. Shvi, who she's chasik moed lispos hatsar shalaziva sarah shumurgo. And besides all the other things that you have to, like the first 6 things, which are like so the things you have before you do tshuva, things you got to set up. It's you have to also strengthen yourself. That it's not going to be easy. You have to strengthen yourself that you're going to have to suffer. What's it called when you go to rehab? Right?
Wrong.
Withdrawal. You got to withdraw from Avera. She's chasik moed. You have to strengthen yourself very much. Lisbos hatzar to carry the pain of leaving the Rash. That you're accustomed to do. You've been doing this. A life switch, right? It's not easy. You have to be ready for that. Before you got to know. It's not okay. I'm ready to tshuva. I feel bad. That's it. I'm a new man. No, doesn't work that way. You have to have a resolution, a strong resolution in your heart, and in your mind, your thoughts. Lost or remember to leave it. Tear your hearts, not your clothing. So, so explain to you that it seems like he's saying that there's a little kiruas levavchem, right? Don't tear your clothing. It's okay. I'm doing tshuva. It's a superficial type of act. You tear your clothing. You put on tack clothing. I'm sorry, God. No, you gotta tear your heart.
Well, that's kind of like our conversation earlier today.
Why?
Meaning, it's like if you're coming to your Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur and you start going around asking mechila for people, you're not actually sorry for it. You're just doing it to kind of get a better din. Then it's not sincere.
That's for sure. That's for sure. You had asked me a different question. Should I be forgiving even if the guy doesn't?
Right.
Right. The fact that people go and say, be Michael, you know what I mean? And they don't really mean it. Right. So that's not real sorry. That's fake sorry. But here we're talking a person really, really wants to do tshuva. He really wants to do tshuva, but he has to know that he's setting himself up for a process. It's not just, in other words, he really wants to do tshuva. Right? The guy wants to break his habits. Okay, let's not talk about drugs. Let's talk about dieting. I really want to lose weight. And right, and I have all that. I have this hard connected, you know what I mean? The chocolate cake is so good, but tomorrow I'm gonna have diabetes, you know, I'm gonna have stomach aches. And I know it's not worth, you know, it's not that I do all the first six things. All the first six things. I know I did the wrong thing and it's very serious. And I'm gonna get punished for it, and it's not gonna be forgiven. You know what I mean? You did it. You're gonna get it. And I know that the only way to correct this is the tshuva is the target. That's it, right? I'm all set up. I have all the things. I'm all set up. But I don't realize that now I'm gonna have to battle. It'll be hard. I have to change my hergilim, my norms, my eating habits. Saying a lot of no to a lot of things I haven't said no to before. Teaching myself to say no, then it's not going to happen. And that's what he's saying here. He's saying number 7 is she's chazek moed lisbol as hatzar shel azivos. You have to strengthen yourself forward, strengthen yourself very much to be ready to do the work to lisbol as hatzar of azivos harash umugober. He's accustomed to. What did he say here?
He knows intellectually, but now he's got to put his part in.
Again?
He knows intellectually,
yeah,
but now it's his part that
right,
which would then come into that possible.
Right. And that's he says, a person thing. And now that I decided intellectually, yeah, everything is true, and we do tshuva, that it's going to be easy. There's going to be many difficulties. Tear your heart. Not an easy thing. He doesn't make a real resolution to tear his heart. Right? Raku Sovershu Davaka is going to go into it thinking it's an easy thing. As a few Yaskov Avodas Teshuva, then even if he starts the Teshuva process, when he hits any type of bump in the road, he'll leave go. He says over here, he had something. He says, even though we're saying that you got to really make a real resolution, be ready to walk the walk, do the work. He says, still, a person also has to, it's still kedai. That's how do I get over that difficulty is by really realizing that whatever difficulty I'm going to have to get over and face to reach my goal, ultimately it's kedai. And he brings a chazal, a yalkut, a noyo. Shekavonas navi that you can read the pasuk Kira levavchem al b'dechem means if you tear your hearts, then you won't have to tear your clothing. Says the Yalkut, Omer Shurban Levi im karatam levavchem b'tshuva. If you tore your hearts in tshuva, yatim cherim b'dechem al b'nechem nesechem. You won't tear your clothing on your children. Sounds like it's referring to like avelus. You'll save yourself a lot of heartache and punishment later. Loma ki chanam v'rachamu. Maybe that's the end of the pasuk. I don't know. Says the rest because Hashem is chanam v'racham, and if you do the tshuva process, you'll be forgiven, and you won't have to suffer. Ubavadi kriyas alev hagam tekosha asoisa. Says Ramatzisyo, even though it's certainly a hard thing to do, he kali yoiser. It's still easier v'adif lo adam and better mikriyas b'godav v'dei surim v'oinchin. All right, so that's just like a thing to help you face the difficulties, to know that ultimately it's all game. It's all game. If these 7 things are initially engraved in your mind, you'll be able to do tshuva.
No, it's possible.
It will be possible, right? It'll be possible. You're saying it's possible. All right. Yeah.
Right? These are the prerequisites. And if you got these prerequisites down, then after low.
Okay. Says Perek Dalet. Aval Gidrei Ekronis Hayishoyt Tshuva Heimarbra. Now, what is tshuva? Right? That's what he says. Now we have to talk, and he says there are 4 basic aspects of tshuva. Aleph, she started off with Nishas. Charata. On the various he did. Phase. And he's going to explain each one, obviously. Shiazavaisam Yosremehem. No more. Gimel Shisfada Shasa Isam Ivaka Shlicha Aleim. You have to say vidu. That's the process. You have to be mitzvah. It's not enough to have charata. It's not enough to have kabbalah on all seat. You need to vidu. It means you have to verbalize. You have to say, I did such and such. And as like we said earlier, it seems haLevavos, and you have to mispalo that I shouldn't do it again. And that's kabbalah on the osit. So you have charata, Aziva Sachet, Vidui, and Kabbalah on Os. And it's interesting that he splits the first 2, Charata and Aziva Sachet. Like, you wouldn't think that it's Charata, like if you remember at the beginning, he talked about that. To say I'm doing tshuva, but you continue in your actions, it's not worth anything. All right, let's see, but he counts it as 2 things. Number 1, charata is siman shamaistro also mechorbe. Charata is an expression that I know that what I did was mechor means disgusting, ugly thing. I did a bad thing. I realized I did a bad thing. This action is bad. As the Navi says in Yoel, Mi Yodea Yoshev V'Nichav. Says Rashi there, Mi Yodea Shechota, someone who knows that he sinned, Yoshev V'Nichav Yachzer B'Tshuva V'Yischari. You have to first know that you did wrong. You have to know you did a bad thing. Someone who doesn't have that regret continues. The Navi Yirmiyahu says, nobody's sorry about what the bad they're doing. They're doing it fine. He says, we see this by people, between people. Someone did wrong to another. And then you show him that he did wrong to you. As a girl, well, 1 minute, am I saying this right? If I wronged you and I expressed to you and I show you that I know I did wrong to you and I'm sorry about that I did wrong to you, so there's very that's a very strong cause that the person will be forgiving. It's human nature. This is more like Ron, what you're referring to. If the guy, Ron had asked me, what happens if a guy did you wrong and he's not sorry? Comes to Shon Yom Kippur, do you have an Indian to be with? Forgive him. Right? Because human nature is that if someone expresses that he did wrong to you, you see that he's sincere, you forgive him. What happens if the guy's not sincere or he doesn't really care? Right? So then the human nature for sure is why should I forgive him?
Well, it's not just that. I mean, even if the person is sincere, but the thing that he against them was so heinous, what if it just can't be overlooked? Or what if you can't do mechila? What if you can't meichel them?
Okay, so that's in such a situation where the person is really sincere. On one hand, it does put a certain on you that you have to work very hard to try to find it deep in your heart to be forgiving, and you use all kind of tools. You say, truth is that nobody can hurt me. It's coming to me from Shemayim. Nobody, that is cheshbon. It's his cheshbon. We know that, but we believe, that everything is that. You don't get upset at the stick. You get upset at the person behind the stick hitting you, and this is just it. You work on yourself. It's not going to avoid this nefesh to be forgiving. I mean, it says that if someone asks you mechila, you shouldn't be an opposite. You should forgive him. He hurt me very seriously. In my eyes, he messed up my life. He crushed me. Right? So it's hard.
Is that halacha that you have to forgive them?
In such a case, or in any case, when a person's honestly sorry about what he did, he knows, and he regrets it totally. And halacha says you shouldn't be an achzor and you should forgive him. And it also says that if you're not forgiving, he should come 3 times with 3 different people and ask him mechila, and then he doesn't have to ask anymore. So that's mitzad that. I'm just saying mitzad itself. You could even, but it's hard, very hard. And of course, each situation is different. You could even view it as that I know this is crazy, what I'm going to say, okay? Sort of thank that person for what he did, because he just gave me an opportunity to go way beyond who I am and reach for greatness. Take me to such a high level that I could look and be forgiving in such a situation. I have to thank him for allowing me to do that. I know it's crazy, but there is some truth to what I'm saying. Okay, and I'm not saying I'm there either, but there is truth in that. He gave you an assignment that if you pass, you've grown tremendously. And in the Olam Ha'emes, in our value systems, in our Olam Hava, when I get there, I'm going to be on the Kisei HaKavod, shining. And I realize that he did me a favor. But these are all tools. You got all kind of almost mind games with yourself, Well, if a person's really, we're meant to find it in ourselves. We're not talking about judging anybody else. We're talking because he asked the question. But your original question, where the guy's not even regretting what he did, like you said, you faced him and you told him, and he doesn't really care. I don't know if you're mechuyev to be forgiving and such. No, I have to look around if they're still in Indian. I don't know. One thing's for sure, they say even in the self-help books, don't let the guy live rent-free in your mind, right? He's fine. He's living a good life. He doesn't care. And you're sitting there all upset about him, and he's you're the only one suffering. So, let go.
Yeah, 100%. That I agree with. And that is giving mechila on saying Yom Kippur, it frees your mind much more than anything else, and there's a self-benefit to it.
Right.
But on the flip side, if you go ahead and you harm another person, and they're gonna have to come around and forgive you, it kind of it retracts from it a little bit. You can say the celestial, what
do you mean he's gonna have to come in your case, he's not coming, right? He doesn't care.
No, 100%. I'm saying
so
in
you
general.
Just want to know if when it comes to Yom Kippur, should you forgive him anyways, right? On your end. So that's another question. And it's a good question,
Fine, but I'm saying in general, okay, I know that anyone who comes to Yom Kippur goes there, or if I go 3 times and I go to a different system, so under those circumstances, I can do whatever I want to anybody, always, because
no, because of course you have, first of all, there's such a rule that if someone says echte v'oshuv, he's not forgiven. If a person says, I'm going to do wrong and then I'll do tshuva, it doesn't work. Doesn't work. And when the person comes to you 3 times, he has to be sincere. He's coming to you the second, third time because he's really sincere and you're not being forgiving. If he's not really sincere, he can come 20 times, it doesn't count. We're talking about someone who's really sincere. He doesn't know what to do. The guy just, for whatever reason, can't bring himself, was not interested in talking to him or forgiving him. So then halacha, it means that if you go 3 times, I think with 3 different people, and each time you ask him for mechila, then you've done your obligation. And it's on you have the mechila. But that's only if you really mean it. You can't fake it and then say, well, it says 3 times. So, no, that don't work. That doesn't work. Okay. Today's Thursday. Sunday. Everyone should have a good Shabbos.
We don't learn on Shabbos? Wow.
We learn on Shabbos, but not on Zoom.
Wow. I'm just saying. I
know. We'll put it on the Shabbos clock and
100%.
All the head favor. Okay.
Shabbos.
Thank you. It was very enjoyable.
Bye.